Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom, and we are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And speaking of Hesselson's, we'll be talking with Tom Witzel from Hesselson's here in just a bit. We have a lot to get to this morning. Obviously, I'll be promoting tomorrow's main event. Starting at 6 a.m., we're going to have a special telethon here on Frankly Speaking. Get you into the holiday spirit. We're going to have great music, great guests. That starts at 6 a.m. tomorrow and runs till 8, and it's all to benefit the Salvation Army of Corning. So I hope that you will tune in. We're going to talk about Biden's, plural, in a little bit. We've got a couple of presidential updates. First, because we talked about this yesterday, and we received a comment from a viewer that I wanted to highlight. Please tell me how anything Hochul utters about fairness is to be believed. Lots of empty words and another redistricting ball of confusion intended to distract and control. Fair? I don't think so. And that's in reference to the topic yesterday of redistricting in New York, where Hochul said this is finally going to make things fair. Now, I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people, even in the media, that probably like the idea of this redistricting, said that the other maps made it very competitive, which is what you want. Unless, of course, you're a Democrat in Albany. There's 5 ways New York Democrats could reshape the race for the House. And this gets a little wonky, and I don't want to dive too much into it, but this is coming from Politico. One way is that they join Ithaca and Syracuse together. You've got Bowman's district. They could make that more moderate. These, again, from Politico. Protect Molinaro, maybe. Helping freshman Republican Representative Mark Molinaro probably isn't a top priority for any Democrat, but he could wind up becoming one of the big winners in a new set of maps. We'll see. 4, change a part of Brooklyn, linked to Staten Island. And 5, try something different with Long Island, because what they're trying to do is draw this in a way that they can guarantee themselves some more seats and win back the House. According to another piece from Politico, the Republicans' redistricting woes. So again, you had competitive races. It just didn't go the way the Democrats wanted, so they put everything back into a tizzy. New York Republicans don't consider themselves an endangered species, despite a top court redistricting the ruling that could upend pivotal House races in 2024. Representative Mike Lawler said, "I'll be running for re-election no matter what, and I will win despite the Democrats' best efforts to try and gerrymander these districts." Nevertheless, the redistricting ruling from the State Court of Appeals will scramble the contentious New York House races that could ultimately decide which party controls a narrowly divided chamber after next year. An estimated 6 seats are expected to be in play. 5 are held by freshman Republicans, including Lawler's Hudson Valley district. So we'll be following this closely. Obviously, again, it is very... we got a couple of virtual waves there. It's obviously, like I said, a little wonky, but there's an editorial. Do I have time for this? I don't really have time for this, but yeah, we're going to go for it. An editorial, and I believe it was from Newsweek, but don't quote me on that. It's a weird print friendly, but it says, predictably, Democrats won their bloody fight to get another try at rigging New York's 26 congressional districts to better advantage their party in elections to the House of Representatives. The ruling Tuesday by the state's top court perfectly frames the corruption of one-party rule as Democrats, over the last year and a half, brazenly manipulated all 3 branches of government to get this outcome. Incalculable damage has been done to the New York Court of Appeals, as it can be justifiably regarded now as a partisan institution that delivers preordained outcomes. What a powerful message there, and it's 100% accurate. That's why there's been so much frustration. We heard from Assemblyman Phil Palmisano yesterday. We heard from Congresswoman Elise Stefanik and Republican Chairman Ed Cox. But the 4-3 opinion by Chief Judge Rowan Wilson abandons precedent and principle in throwing out the congressional map used in 2022, ruling it was only to be used for one election as if it were a disposable razor. I'm going to skip ahead. You can find this full piece. Excuse me. It's a great piece on Empire Report. The process resulted in competitive districts, as I mentioned yesterday and today, the past map, and the surprise election of more Republicans than expected in a blue state, garnering the outrage of Democrats who then set about finding a way to do it over. Gerrymandering is historically one of the spoils of the electoral system on which both parties continue to feast in many states, especially now, when a few seats can determine the control of the House. What stood out in 2022 is that a majority of the judges on New York's highest court refused to be compromised in the process, and that was a shock, if you recall, at the time. But to wrap things up, because I do need to take a break because I'm running long. Once this process is completed, however, it's clear the state needs an ironclad constitutional amendment that enshrines a new redistricting plan in time for the 2030 census. It's especially necessary because Wilson's opinion is a study in judicial overreach and will likely be cited in the future for the proposition that New York courts cannot correct a gerrymandered map. Heed the dissent written by Judge Anthony Cantaro, which says, quote, "Nothing has changed since the 2022 case, which found that under the state's constitution, the judiciary can correct an illegal redistricting process." Cantaro concluded, this time, however, politics triumphs over free and fair elections. Let's take a short break. I'd love to hear your take on this redistricting ruling. But when we come back, we're going to talk about Hunter Biden and then Joe Biden and then a whole bunch of other stuff. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking. Look at that beautiful view of Market Street here in Corning. As a matter of fact, in Centerway, which the camera's facing Centerway, today the Republicans will be ringing the bell for the Salvation Army of Corning. Yesterday was the Democrats. I dutifully went over there and gave a few dollars to Mayor Boland because that's what this is all about. Unity, coming together for such an amazing cause, and that is the Salvation Army of Corning. Though in full disclosure, I will also be donating to the Republicans, maybe a little bit more today. So don't miss it. Democrats were yesterday. Republicans are today, starting at 10, and they go till 5. And Republicans match up to the first $250 in the kettle. So they're starting out pretty good already. So we'll keep you updated on that. We're going to talk with Mayor Boland on tomorrow's special telethon. He'll be here, and we'll talk about his involvement with the Salvation Army and with the competition, as well as when he rings with the Rotary. And then we'll talk with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on the other side, because he will be there today ringing the bell as well for the Salvation Army. Okay. Hunter Biden ducked the House interview under threat of contempt, insisting that Joe, quote, was not financially involved in foreign business dealings. Now, keep this in mind. You're going to hear this term used a lot probably, but the goalposts have moved again. How many different ways have they said or tried to downplay the president's involvement, then vice president's involvement in these dealings? We'll talk about that in just a moment. But for 6 years, I've been the target of the unrelenting Trump attack machine, shouting, "Where's Hunter?" Well, here's my answer. I am here. That's what Hunter had to say. Now, he was very cocky in this press conference, and very much like his father, where he's very aggressive, saying, "I'm here. I'll answer your questions," and then took no questions from the press. It was all a show, a dog and pony show. Let me state as clearly as I can. My father was not financially involved in my business. Not as a practicing lawyer, not as a board member of Burisma, not in my partnership with a Chinese private businessman, not my investments at home nor abroad, and certainly not as an artist. Oh, got a plug in there for his artwork. Okay. House Republicans said that Hunter's decision propelled last night's vote to formally authorize an impeachment inquiry into Joe Biden's role in his son and brother's foreign dealings. Hunter Biden's legal team, led by high-powered attorney Abe Lowell, repeatedly saw a public hearing. Now, why they want the public hearing, just so you understand, I'm sure you're probably aware, that's where all the grandstanding happens. Instead of actually answering questions, yes or no, those type of things behind closed doors. When the cameras are on, politicians do what politicians do. And you have the grandstanding. You'll have Democrats, trying to protect not only the president, but protect Hunter. You've seen it played out a million times. That's what Hunter's lawyer wants. We're going to talk a little bit more about this, but I don't want to run late because we do have Tom Witzel coming in from Hesselson's. So we'll talk with him after the break, and then we'll get back to Hunter Biden. We'll get back to Joe Biden. We do have a few things here about the former president, Trump, and perhaps a few things about college campuses. Because the Harvard president, some have said, but have used this term, had the audacity to go to a menorah lighting last night on campus to kind of get that photo op. Perhaps we'll get to all that and much more. Excuse me. I have this bad habit of I've got tons of candy canes around here, and I had a candy cane right before we went on the air, and it's wreaking havoc with the radio voice. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Speaking of Hesselson's, Tom, thanks so much for being on the program.
Anytime, Frank.
So this is, I've got to say, and we were talking off the air, one of my favorite times of year, which is already over, but is the tent sale. Is that one of your biggest weeks?
It's probably, in the 35 years I've been at Hesselson's, that's our biggest 4 days of the year. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday sale. Usually it's always around the first weekend in October. We try to do it right before Columbus Day weekend. And it's just a crazy, if you've never been to that sale, it's definitely worth the experience of going. In years ago, about 10 years ago, we built an outdoor pavilion over one of our parking lots. And that's where, in the old days, we had a big tent that was there. Now we have a outdoor pavilion with curtains on it. So we have, clothing and footwear, hunting clothing, accessories, tree stands, a lot of different items that we put out there on sale. And it's just the crowds and the people, and just really good deals for people to not only buy stuff for hunting season, but also for the holidays and stuff.
And it keeps me in long johns for the rest of the winter.
Absolutely. Always good deals on that. And we incorporated into the sale this year. I said, it's already so busy. We have so much traffic coming in, so let's do a big hot tub sale at the same time.
Right.
And it was a great response that weekend for that also.
When you mention hot tubs, we're coming up obviously on Christmas. Is there a better gift for Christmas than a hot tub?
What better way to make every day better? As we always proclaim at Hesselson's.
That's right.
To get not only a hot tub, but Hesselson's hot tub. So it's a large part of our business. It's been a growing business over the last decade.
Yeah.
And even more so through the pandemic and after the pandemic, people just need to feel better about themselves.
Yeah.
They take a pause every day and take time out for themselves to make them feel better. And that's why, hot tubs are great, not just for relaxing, but also for the social aspect, with your wife or your kids getting together. And that's what you hear more and more of, especially in the last couple of years than we had before. So it's really been, and the pricing is very competitive, and they're not, you have different price ranges from, $5,000-$6,000 up to $20,000. And we make it affordable by offering very good financing options for people. So it's a good idea with over 40 hot tubs on display to stop down and see us, and you can see if something fits in your budget.
Well, I think, and people that watch this program know, I bring up almost daily, it seems like, some article about, depression is up or loneliness is up or whatever the case may be. I think people don't take enough time, I'm not a psychiatrist, but people don't take enough time to recharge and have that moment to yourself to just to feel better.
It's, life's short.
Yeah.
I mean, we need, we're all busy. We have kids going in opposite directions, and jobs are stressful. Sure. The times that we're in are stressful. I mean, just turn the TV and that's stressful. Yeah. So we need, like you said, take a step back, and that's what hot tubs are for. Hot water therapy is one of the best therapies you can have. There's a zillion studies have been written about that. And, it's something at home. You can make your home a lot better by having a hot tub at your house.
And what a great New Year's resolution.
Absolutely.
Everybody always has a resolution, right? Come on. How easy is the process? If someone's watching this right now and they say, what, that's what I need in my life right now. How easy is the process to get a hot tub?
It's actually, for us, it's pretty simple in terms of not only do we have that many hot tubs on display, I usually have between 80 and 100 hot tubs in inventory.
Oh, wow.
So you can come in, find one that you like, pick out the right color, and we have couple delivery crews that deliver the hot tubs, so usually it can get delivered within a week to 10 days. So it's a pretty simple process. You have to get some electric done for it, but they're all self-contained units. So our sales guys at the store can kind of guide you through the process of the store to see what best fits into not only your budget but your yard and where you're placing it.
And I have to say, Hesselson's is pretty unique because you really can get most, if not all, of your Christmas shopping done at your place.
Well, we obviously our emphasis is on hot tubs and swimming pools during the summertime.
Right.
But we have a very big, in our 18,000 square foot store, half
Yeah.
the store is clothing. We carry a huge Carhartt and Ariat and Under Armour clothing and some off-brand clothing as well. A lot of socks, great stocking stuffers.
Yes.
And then we also have our footwear department. So we have 400 different styles of work boots, Western boots, safety toe boots. So if you're working, whether it's a logger or working in a factory or a hiker, we have all that type of footwear to get during the holiday time.
One thing I find really interesting, and we were talking about the tent sale, and every year it's kind of like clockwork. I know I'm going to recognize people from the year before, meaning your employees. That's pretty rare in today's day and age to have long-lasting employees, isn't it? And you have probably a higher record than others.
We're very fortunate. I've been with the company for 35 years now, and I've owned it for the last 8. But we have, out of our 23 full-time people, there's a half a dozen that have been there 20 plus years.
Wow.
And then half my employees have been there 10 years and above. It's a really great feeling to have that people, want to stay working for a small local mom and pop store.
Right.
But we make it a very good working environment. I think people enjoy doing what we do. We're selling products that make you feel better, or
Right.
a pair of boots that go on. We're not trying to sell something you don't need. But I think that makes it a more worthwhile place to stay at as well.
Do you think that's what leads to your stellar reputation, is because you have the same people? And as you mentioned, it's not about the upsell. It's about getting what that person needs and wants.
I mean, a lot of this, obviously I bought the store from Tom Hesselson,
Yeah.
who was a great mentor for me for many, many years, and actually still helps out in the summertime.
Yeah, I saw him at the
We
tent
could
sale.
We
Yeah.
could use much help as we can during the summertime. But a lot of his thinkings on how to run a business and how to treat people kind of passed on through me, and I ran the store for 15 years before I bought it. So we really try to instill certain values on what we would do, and you kind of, it kind of passes down from me to the people, to my managers,
Sure.
to everybody that works in the warehouse or on the floor.
Do you think it's your passion, and also the employees' passion for what you do, that has led to the continued success from when you took over?
Honestly, I think if you offer, it's simple things. If you have a friendly smile, good selection, good prices, the customer service. They say it's a dying breed because so many people go on Amazon and buy stuff online, which is a very big part of today's world.
Sure.
But there's still a lot of people that like to shop. They want to keep things local.
Yeah.
Because once you lose the local effect, then you lose your community. And I think that's why we've been, 65 plus years we've been in business, and it's attributed to the community supporting us, and us giving people the service and the products and the pricing that they are looking for.
You mentioned that you've been there 35 years. So just before we go, what changes have you seen through those 35 years?
Well, a lot of changes. Obviously, before I first started there was cell phones was really a thing
Yeah.
that was out there. There was no cell phones. There wasn't really
Isn't that
the
funny?
social media. I mean, a lot of that stuff really wasn't there. People traveled to different places. They didn't, you couldn't buy stuff online. There was more, there's a lot more bigger box stores that were back then, and there's been fewer and fewer that are out there anymore because of the availability of stuff that's online. And we've seen a lot of generational stores not being around anymore. People pass away or they retire, and there's no one to sell the business to or to take on that business. So I think the dynamics of people's shopping habits have changed. But when you get into smaller towns like Horseheads, Elmira Heights, Corning, people still like to shop local, and so I think that is still there.
Yeah.
But I think the changing has just been a lot of people's buying habits, and they continue to want customer service, and a lot of people are not able to give that, but we still do a good job at that. So I think that's why we stay successful.
And it's funny because Hesselson's, we talk about community on this program so much and the importance of community. You are a part of that community.
Absolutely, you have to. We try to stay in touch. We try to help out different organizations or different fundraisers.
Yeah.
When we need stuff for the store, we try to buy as much stuff as we can local because we want people to buy local from us. So, and that's what started back when Tom Hesselson's dad Bert owned him.
Oh, no
the
kidding.
place back during the flood of '72. He was very giving out of the store for people that during the flood time. That passed on to Tom, and it's passed on to me that if you want the support of the public in your community, you better give to the community as well. And I've always been a big passion for that, whether it's for the Clemens Center, SPCA, or different organizations that you want to be a part of.
Well, before we go, I got to say Merry Christmas. Is there anything that anybody or that people should know, about your hours coming up on Christmas?
We keep our, again, past pandemic, we had changed our hours a little bit, and we're open, Monday through Friday 9 to 6, Saturday 9 to 5. We are closed Sundays except for Christmas Eve because it falls on a Sunday. We're open 9 to 3. We are very big believer of family, and a lot of our people at the store have kids. They're married, so I think it's very important to have family time rather than just running a business 12, 14 hours a day. So we have hours that we're open, and we're open on Saturdays from 9 to 5.
So the Christmas Eve at 3 o'clock, how manic is that crowd?
It's Christmas Eve is usually pretty busy, especially when it falls on a weekend. So we'll have food and stuff like that brought in for everybody that's working, because it's basically it's 6 hours of madness, and then 3 o'clock we got to go be with our families for the holidays.
Of course. Well, Tom, Merry Christmas. Thanks so much for being on the show.
No problem, Frank. Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. Stay with us. Broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. This is Frankly Speaking on Big Fox. Thank you to Tom for being on the program. Get the Hesselsons. Don't be one of those people that wait till 3 o'clock on Christmas Eve, though. Get there today. So Hunter Biden, we were talking about that before we were joined by Tom. So Joe Biden has said before he knew nothing about his son's business. That has since changed to where he wasn't involved. And now, as of the press conference that Hunter gave yesterday, he was not, quote, financially involved. So as you see a moving of the goalposts. And Miranda Devine says that Hunter Biden can duck the hot seat all he wants, but not the facts. I'm here, I'm ready, said Hunter, and then swept away in his motorcade without answering a single question. Like father, like son. Of course, there's nothing bold or brave about inviting a contempt charge from Congress when you have daddy's pardon power in your back pocket. Hunter could have taken his entourage over to the House hearing room, where Oversight Chairman James Comer was waiting for him to testify, and see if it's behind closed doors you can have the actual answers, a yes or no, where he wants the public hearing so that you have the Democrats that can grandstand and, eat up all that time. But he could have went over there and just simply pleaded the fifth to avoid complicating his twin indictments on tax and gun charges. Instead, he chose a cocky public relations strategy to manipulate the public narrative by painting himself as an object of pity, which we've seen time and time again, referencing his addiction and those type of things, and playing on the kind hearts of the American people. A cynical art form his father has employed to great effect throughout his political career, says Miranda Devine. That's the art. But from Daddy's point of view, the most important line in Hunter's 5-minute oration was his double denial of the president's role in his family's shady influence peddling scheme. Joe Biden was not, quote, financially involved is a significant shifting of the goalposts. It is a carefully parsed, legalistic phrase that looks as if it has been workshopped to death in a campaign war room before being dropped into Hunter's soup of self-pity. That is the message from the White House delivered by a hostage who needs his dad's pardon to stay out of jail. It bears no relation to all the president's previous denials. And the Post editorial board says that Hunter Biden just moved the goalpost again on the central question of his dad's role in his global influence peddling business. Joe, he now says, wasn't financially involved. This when President Biden himself has shifted from claiming he never discussed and had never spoken to Hunter about his dealings. And he wasn't involved. Now it's down to not financially involved. Which means what exactly? Is this an admission that, yes, he did glad hand at dinners and got on the phone to help sell his proximity to power? That no Hunter Klein ever paid Joe directly? Well, what they end up wrapping up by saying, because we've got to take another short break, is that what were once blanket denials are now full of holes. At this rate, the only excuse in the end will be a claim that the House shouldn't impeach a sitting president just because he abused the office of vice president to enrich his entire family. Seriously, that's where all the goalposts moves are headed. So that's from the Post editorial board. Now, according to Republicans, that, I don't know, I guess you call it a press conference by Hunter, is one of the reasons why they voted last night and formally approved the Biden impeachment inquiry. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Couple quick reminders. Tomorrow is our big telethon. I know I'm bringing it up a lot, but I'm very proud of it. We have a lot of special guests. We're going to have great music and get you in the holiday spirit starting tomorrow at 6 a.m. So as you prepare to go to work or maybe go to school, tune in. Here's some great music, some really fun guests, and we'll be taking, and I would recommend, if you don't mind, setting your alarm a little early, stopping by Market Street before you go into work, and you can drop off money. We'll have kettle right out in front of our studio. You can wave. We'll get you on camera. I'd love to see you. If we have a second, we could talk. But also, they'll have a number on the bottom of the screen tomorrow and a scan code on the top corner where you can donate. It's not a typical telethon where I'm going to have a big tally at the end. It's not that. This is about getting some money for the Salvation Army, who does so much for us as a community, helping to benefit them, but also to raise awareness of all the good work that they do at the Salvation Army. And I know I keep mentioning this, but it is the Salvation Army of Corning, but that is really Steuben County. It's one of those things that was named a long time ago, and it's stuck. Can't really be changed, but it is for Steuben County. So anyway, enough on that. And if you're busy tomorrow and you can't stop by, you can go over and donate to the Republicans, who will be ringing the bell today in Centerway on Market Street. Let's take our next break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Everybody, and I hope you guys have a great night.
Merry Christmas to the Southern Tier. Go Bills!
Happy Christmas and go Bills!
And we are back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. So the House formally approves the Biden impeachment inquiry, the big news of the day. It was voted along party lines, 221 to 212. So passing the authorization of the inquiry. Republicans have said they moved to formalize it. Well, one, they did it yesterday because of the kind of the spectacle of Hunter Biden's press conference. But they also wanted to formalize it because the White House responded just last month to a document request by arguing that their inquiry was unconstitutional due to the lack of a vote. So they said, okay, then we'll vote. James Comer said, we're very pleased with the vote today. I think that it's a message loud and clear to the White House. We expect you to comply. Now, President Biden called it a baseless political stunt. I wake up every day focused on the issues facing the American people, real issues that impact their lives, and the strength and security of our country and the world. Unfortunately, House Republicans are not joining me. It was quite a lengthy statement. We're not going to go through the whole statement. Speaker Mike Johnson said, as President Biden continues to stonewall lawful congressional subpoenas, today's vote of the full House of Representatives authorizing the inquiry puts us in the strongest position to enforce these subpoenas in court. Also, we heard from Congressman Nick Langworthy, our congressman, of course. This is what he had to say on the issue. As a member of the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability, I've been directly engaged with Chairman Comer and my colleagues in a key part of the investigation that brought us to where we are today. We have evidence that President Biden repeatedly lied to the American public about his involvement in his family's corrupt foreign business deals, and he's obstructed our investigation at every turn. I voted to open an impeachment inquiry as the logical next step to obtain the answers that the American people deserve. Hey, speaking of, we actually brought up both of these people. Congressman Nick Langworthy, the 23rd Congressional District, and we mentioned earlier Mark Molinaro, who will be watching, well, they'll both be watching the redistricting very closely, but Molinaro perhaps a little bit closer. Well, Congressman Langworthy and Mark Molinaro announced more than $2.75 million in federal funding for the Waverly School District. So all our friends in the Waverly Central School District. Wow, that's a lot. $2.75 million. The grant is intended for the operation of the Chemung Center for Innovation, including purchasing new equipment like aquaculture supplies, computers, and software. Congressman Langworthy said this significant investment in the Chemung Center for Innovation will ensure that future students have access to quality education and job training opportunities. This new facility sets out to provide students with the skills to succeed in sectors across our local economy, from agriculture to manufacturing. I'm proud to work with Congressman Molinaro and local leaders to secure this grant and position our region to be a future leader in innovation. That's nice. I just wanted to add that. So back to Biden impeachment. I know. Talk about jumping around, huh? David Axelrod, he's been a little outspoken lately. He was on Anderson Cooper 360. If you don't know who David Axelrod is, he's the former advisor to President Obama. He said basically they're basing an impeachment inquiry on something the president's son did. Hunter Biden isn't president of the United States, and after 2 years of trying, they still haven't been able to make a link between Joe Biden and what Hunter did. I do think this is an ordered hit from Donald Trump, who wants to portray equivalence. They went after me, so we're going after him. He wants to muddy the water, and I think his supporters want to muddy the water. You know, the speaker made a pilgrimage to President Trump. So I mentioned that with David Axelrod. I'm not sure if you saw this. He's been kind of sounding the alarms over Biden's poll numbers, much to the chagrin of many in the Democrat Party that aren't happy that he's talking about it. According to Victor Neva at the New York Post, David Axelrod warns that Biden's low approval rating is, quote, very, very dark news for the campaign. Obama's top campaign guru referenced a recent Wall Street Journal poll on a podcast that shows only 37% of voters approve of the 81-year-old president's job in the Oval Office. 37%, with 61% holding an unfavorable view. He said job approval down. Ratings generally down. Most of the comparatives with Trump not good. What I worry about, you guys, from a Biden standpoint, is these are the kind of things you get when people are starting to rationalize their votes. And they just put out another photo op with the Bidenomics sign next to him. It's just unbelievable to me. Yes, there's been a lot of criticism from the Democrats that Biden is, number one, using the term Bidenomics, but going around kind of bragging about the economy, because I know they keep telling us in the news that it's not really that bad, but then you go to the grocery store, then you go to the gas station, and you feel that pain. So you can watch as many big TV ads that he put out, $25 million ad buy. You could have all his talking heads go on the Sunday shows. That doesn't change the fact that when you go to put your debit card in or pay in cash, you know what that total is, and what it was last week, and what it was the week before. We've got to take another short break. We're going to change up topics when we come back, so stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back. Another beautiful day on Marcus Street. We're broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. This is Frankly Speaking. I'm your host, Frank Acom. Thanks for joining us. Hamas has threatened violence against Americans, quote, everywhere. In a chilling new video, a senior official for Hamas called for acts of violence against the United States and also the United Kingdom. Wow. And now you've got, and this is troubling, we've wondered, because going back to what David Axelrod said, the polls are so bad for the president, we started to get concerned because Democrats were saying they don't support Israel as wholeheartedly as they believe Biden is. So the polls were affected in that way as well. So we were concerned, I was concerned, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, I was concerned that that would lead Biden to say, man, we can't lose anybody else, or the people around him say this. So maybe we start to get a little wishy-washy weekend, and we are starting to see that. The United States has delayed sales of M16 rifles to Israel over settler violence. The Biden administration is again holding up the licenses for selling more than 20,000 U.S.-made rifles to Israel over concerns about attacks by extremist Israeli settlers against Palestinian civilians in the occupied West Bank. We also have, and this has been a frequent trend lately, unfortunately, with articles like this, unprecedented tensions between White House and Netanyahu as Biden feels political price for standing with Israel. That's the point, and that's what's troubling, the political price. So his party, Democrat Party, not as pro-Israel as many wanted to believe, though I think we've talked about it in the past. This did not really come as a surprise to me. Some of the things that have been said by the Democrat Party and what the base feels according to the polls, I'm not necessarily surprised by it, but I think some in the White House may have been caught off guard by it. So now, instead of standing with Israel wholeheartedly, like he said he would, now we're starting to see a little bit of what, unfortunately, is the worst side of politics, which is, well, this may be the right thing to do, but we've got to worry about next year's election. We've got to worry about our poll numbers. I'm not going to go through the whole piece. You can find it's Stephen Collinson at CNN talking about, you know, this tension, and it's almost like when they put these pieces out, it's like, you're paying attention, right, Biden? You better change your position. You better backtrack on your support for Israel. Now, I hope that he doesn't, but we are starting to see some moves in that direction. We're going to tie this in I got to take my next break, but we're going to tie this in with what's happening on college campuses, because obviously it's all related. We see, just like in the Democrat Party, we're seeing on college campuses this extremism when it comes to, some are calling it anti-Semitic views, some are calling it pro-Palestinian views, however they want to word it. I think the underlining feeling is still there. You know what that is, what we're seeing with our eyes. Again, Rashida Tlaib saying, as a Palestinian woman, you can't police what she means by from the river to the sea, or the chant they use. You can't judge what she means by that. That's up to her. Well, we're seeing, I don't want to, I'll explain it with this article when we come back, but the idea that they believe the term anti-Semitic is being used too frequently, even though we're seeing at these quote-unquote protests the extremism, the horrible, despicable signs we had at I think it was at the Rockefeller tree lighting, is where someone was holding a sign with a swastika. But again, they're trying in the media and in academia to twist this in a way to make you believe it's not as bad as what you're seeing. So we'll talk about it when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. We will be right back. And we are back with Frankly Speaking. So an opinion piece at CNN ties in what I was trying to say, well, without coming right out and saying it. And I wanted to kind of keep you hooked. It's by Wendy Perlman. And she says the conversation we can't avoid about pro-Palestinian campus protests. So I think the ironic thing about this piece is she kind of exposes one of the major problems that we're having, which is this strain of what, call it pro-Palestinian, or however you want to word it, from teachers, from faculty. And it's led the kids as well as the faculty to grow more extreme and more extreme. She says, as a graduate student 2 decades ago, I was president of the Students for Justice in Palestine chapter at Harvard. Our small group sponsored the occasional lecture or film screening, but for the most part, we were ignored. Now I'm a professor, at Northwestern University, and I'm astonished by how much things have changed. Pro-Palestinian student activism is attracting unprecedented scrutiny. Was it some of the tactics, maybe? Could that have something to do with it? No. We're going to have a situation where we're going to play victim. Okay? So prepare yourself for that. That's largely because following Hamas's October 7th attack and Israel's subsequent bombardment of Gaza, universities have become a front line in the battle for public opinion. over U.S. support for Israel. This piece is really kind of fascinating because there's so many moving pieces about what's wrong with academia, and she doesn't realize that she's exposing them, I don't think, because right there, okay, so she's now a professor with those same views that are teaching these kids that are getting radicalized. But I'll continue. But the timing of the hearing, meaning the congressional hearing, suggests to me that something else is going on as well. Accusations of anti-Semitism are being used to silence criticism of the state of Israel. Lawmakers on the committee blurred the line between Jews and Israel and equated anti-Semitism and pro-Palestinian dissent. And this is a talking point that's regularly used, where it is, you can't question what they're saying. Like I said, Rashida Tlaib was saying it. You can't question what they're saying because it's an issue of free speech, or in this case, you can't just throw around anti-Semitism, even though we're seeing with our own eyes what's happening at these protests. Shifting the conversation from Israel to anti-Semitism stymies much-needed public debate on U.S. policies, such as proposals for an additional $14.3 billion in military aid to Israel, or last week's veto of a UN resolution demanding a humanitarian ceasefire in Gaza. Backlash against pro-Palestinian voices also undermines the vital role of academic institutions as places where students engage with each other, wrestle with complicated questions, and learn how to act on their principles in a fraught world. We cannot take that line seriously when we see what happens to conservatives on campus, when conservatives that are speaking. You cannot now say that we want to have these great engagements and we want everybody to come together and have this discussion when you can't have the discussion because conservatives are being silenced, shouted down. The role of colleges, and this is where the next level on peel back this piece of the onion, how full of themselves many in academia are. The role of colleges is to empower students with the knowledge, skills, and freedom needed to understand and improve the world. Institutions of higher learning must provide spaces that are safe from violence and intimidation, not from ideas that are challenging or even distressing. Again, history proves that we cannot take you seriously that you're taking this stance now. It's as simple as that. Criticism of Israel will leave some feeling uncomfortable. Confronting perspectives different from one's own usually does. But that is, after all, what college is all about, going back to living in a bubble and being a little full of yourself on academia. We've got to take a last break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. We are back with Frankly Speaking here on Big Fox, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street. I mentioned this quickly. We got to go, but I wanted to highlight embattled Harvard president Claudia Gay attended a menorah lighting, many calling it performative, a public relations stunt. But I wanted to mention it because a classmate, a student, I should say, had a very good point on this. Quote, if any other minority group says they don't feel safe, the administration would take steps to make sure they have a safe space. This student is only identified as Olivia. Now Jewish students are saying they don't feel safe. I don't want to be coddled. But if you're going to protect some minority groups, but not other minority groups, that's underlining anti-Semitism. And to Olivia's point, think about that. You also have professors that are teaching this kind of anger and distrust and whatever word you want to use, anti-Semitism or not, teaching that on top of these students already not feeling safe. When their president can't even come out and denounce genocide. Wow. Out of time. Please join us tomorrow morning. It is the special telethon. I'm really looking forward to it. It's for the Salvation Army of Corning. It's from 6 to 8 tomorrow. So you get 2 hours of Frankly Speaking. Great guests, great music. Do not miss it. I look forward to hearing from you. You can chat with us as always at that number on the bottom of the screen throughout the program. Have a great day, everyone, and join us tomorrow morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox.